Okay, we gotta hit the record button, and there we go. All right, so Tarkov stuff, right? Yeah, Tarkov. Okay, hey everybody, Onepeg here. Tarkov video about shotguns and stuff. I had wanted to have this video out like 2, maybe 3 days ago, but that's not how things went. Because, well, the baby kept me busy, yeah. But what ended up happening was, and I'll show you guys in the video what went down. I had been kind of testing a bunch of stuff, and it didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go. So I ended up starting over and did a lot. So this took me a few days, and it took me many, many hours. Eventually ended up being one of those things that I wasn't going to fit in, like, around my streaming schedule. So I decided that I was just going to do it while I was streaming. And that was cool. It was boring, but it was okay. We got it done. So that if you guys want a point of reference, this was a lot of rounds of shotgun shells of all different types. I'll go into the details in the video. TLDR, for those of you that need one because you can't be bothered to sit through ad revenue, you pricks, you know who you are. Shotguns aren't as accurate as they should be. That's pretty much it. So anyway, I'm going to go into my script. You guys probably won't see much of my face anymore. I'm sorry, and you're welcome. I don't know. After my last video, before I drifted off to Dreamland, I watched as the whole of the Tarkov community slowly discovered the shotgun love that existed as a small hidden gem, nestled discreetly amongst the statistical changes of BSG's latest hotfix. And while the majority of the player base rejoiced, one man was not quite so convinced. This man was Clean. In this tweet, Clean stated that the spread of shotgun pellets, by the way, I know there's 8 or 9 pellets per shell of 12-gauge buck, depending on whether it's express or not. I just derped out hard in the last video. Thanks for correcting me 37 times in the comments. You pricks, you know who you are. But Clean said regardless of the weapon's system, 12-gauge never reliably hit point of aim, and showed a bunch of screen caps to support his statement. Now, obviously, there's a subsection of the community that pushed back on his take because Clean can't ever say anything about Tarkov without half of the player base losing their collective shit. I mean, really, stop scapegoating the guy. He's actually a fucking awesome dude. Y'all get really weird about him. Jump off the rod, all right? Anyway, the theory was presented, and I figured, what the hell? I'm not doing anything today, right? Might as well try this thing on and see if it fits. So, I tested 100 rounds of each of the buckshot types per gun to see where the shots ended up and see if anything ever hit the point of aim. For this test, I'm using the 2 currently most accurate shotguns, which are the 153 and the Saiga 12, which, as of the shotgun accuracy buff, is now the most accurate of the shotguns available. Okay, as a point of reference, each of the shotguns that I'm using here will be the most accurate builds that you can currently create. That means the 153 has a 12-gauge choke, and the only variation in accuracy would come as the result of the shotgun loads. For instance, like 6.5mm Express has a 15% accuracy increase, and 8.5mm Magnum increases recoil, etc., but the recoil change obviously doesn't affect our accuracy template. Before we get into this, just a little bit about accuracy. Accuracy in Tarkov, as of now, is measured in MOA or minutes of angle. It used to be percentages of degrees, but they've changed it. Now, 1 MOA or 1 minute of angle is 1/60th of a degree. But in Tarkov, the measurements on the stat are off. The MOAs listed are actually half of what they really are. So take the values with a grain of salt until they fix it. Or not. Who knows? Anyhoozle, the idea behind the accuracy system of Tarkov, like most others, is that it's conical. The angle from the tip of the barrel upon exit is set by this stat, and it travels in a cone from there on out, widening and spread as it travels further away and eventually hitting somewhere inside of a certain sized invisible circle drawn somewhere downrange. So, the smaller the number, the more accurate the gun. Now, one other quick little note, and this graphic I'll show you kind of explains this a little bit better. The center of the green circle is essentially the point that the gun, once fired, selects to hit. The spread of that cone of pellets is then determined from wherever that center point is. So it's possible that you could have a few pellets that end up outside of that circle because of how the gun works, okay? So just keep that kind of in the back of your mind in case you end up seeing some little outliers here and there. In the real world, 1 MOA is equivalent to a 2.9 centimeter diameter circle at 100 meters. I'll say that again. It's a 2.9 centimeter diameter circle 100 meters away. That's what 1 MOA is equivalent to downrange. But in Tarkov, right now, 1 MOA is double that. It's 5.8 centimeters. So inside of Tarkov, at 25 tarkometers, or TM, that circle is 1/4 of that, or approximately 1.5 centimeters. The shotguns that we're experimenting with are 18 to 21 MOA. That means that at 25 meters, the potential spread of these guns should be somewhere around 27 to 32 centimeters in diameter. Back to the range. We have our understanding of the accuracy stat, and we have our scale. So where did all of this place? Because after all, until the other day, the 153 was the most accurate shotgun, and now it's the Saiga. So how accurate is that exactly? At the range, I set up the experiment as follows, and feel free to try this yourselves. First, we need to know how to measure distance. Luckily, the Unity engine does this for us. And this is something that I showed in a previous video, but really quickly inside of Tarkov. If, wherever you're standing, you hit Alt Print Screen, it will save a screenshot to your screenshots folder. This screenshot's file name is auto-generated with a string of numbers. The first 3 numbers separated by commas in this file name are X, Y, and Z coordinates. There are simple calculators you can get online that will assist you in calculating the distance between 2 points in 3D space, and Unity and Tarkov measure this change in distance on a coordinate plane measured in meters. Or, again, tarkometers? TM? Jokes. To find the second point, you walk a little ways and take a second screenshot, and once you're 25 meters away, based on the distance calculated between those screenshots, we start lighting up the same point on a wall to get our spread. 5 rounds at a time. For each of the buckshot rounds, 7mm, 6.5mm, 8.5mm, and 5.25mm, there was 100 rounds of each per shotgun for a total of 800 rounds. And this is where I ended up having to start over. Because initially when I did this, I lined myself up on a concrete wall. Nice flat surface, easily seen, 25 meters was straight on, and the spreads were fine. The problem was that the decal that gets created upon impact on concrete ends up being really large. So if you had overlapping hits, it was really difficult to tell where those hits were. Now, of course, I got through like 700 rounds of buckshot before I realized, this could end up being a problem. And then I had to go find a metal surface to shoot at because the decals are significantly smaller, and do that one instead, which ended up being way better, but still pretty time-consuming. So, rip. In recording this, I'd take 5 shots, take a screen cap, and then overlay this simple outline of a PMC's head and torso on the screen cap, making sure that it was to scale based on the distance. And then did that with every single screenshot and counted the impacts on and around the point of aim. For reference, at 25 meters using the Valde, the torso is 16.7 mils in size, and the head is 5.4 mils, which is what you see on the screen in front of you. Then I broke this up into head hits, torso hits, and stomach hits, meaning the first 2 stats would be potential lethal damage, and the third stat, or stomach, would be non-lethal, but still count as hitting the torso. And we want to know how likely you are to not only kill someone, but also to hit them, right? And the results were like this. Now, the expectation here was that with higher accuracy would come more hits on or closer to the point of aim, meaning that we should see more head hits and more torso hits and less stomach hits with something like Express Buckshot and the Saiga versus something like Standard Buckshot and a 153. We should also expect to see the Saiga across the board have slightly better performance results in each category versus that of the 153, given that the conical accuracy is supposed to be better. But something interesting started coming out of all of this, and I'll get into that in a second. The most interesting thing that came out of all of this testing is that if we look at the screenshot, and I have a really simple outline that I made of these spreads, and in every case, the spread was about 20 to 21 mils, depending on which shotgun you were using and which type of buckshot you were using, etc. And you can kind of see this little outlined ring around where the shells ended up hitting, where all the impact points were, each of the groupings, and then looked at how this whole spread was kind of across the entire plane in front of it. Now, given these groupings, these spreads, this takes up about 20 mils worth of space, circular, 20 mils. Given that it takes up about 20 mils of space, if we look at the head, it takes up maybe 4 square mils, somewhere around there, maybe 5, which means that as a ratio, the head should come in around 15-ish% of the total amount of surface area that's shown inside of this circle, because it's not squared off, so we can't really say, right, that it's going to be perfect. So it's about 15% of the surface area inside the circle you should expect to see when you fire at the target. Center point of aim should have about 15% of the pellets hitting that center. But that's not it. That's not what's happening. In most cases, it's somewhere around 4 to 5%. We had one case where it came in between like 8 and 9%, and that was only after we did the recount. In the case of the 153, it is less accurate than the Saiga, and all the testing, it showed that it was less accurate than the Saiga in like almost all aspects. But even with the high accuracy that the Saiga has compared to like the 153, it's still like half-ish of what we would typically expect to see given the size of the head hitbox at this kind of a range. So that begs the question, is this accurate enough? And I don't think it is. I think that if we're really looking for head strikes, the best move would be to reduce the amount of damage that the buckshots do, but increase the accuracy of them. So rather than being hit by, say, like one magnum pellet and having you take that death sentence, if you get lucky, perhaps reduce the overall damage of each one of the pellets in the case of buckshot, but increase the accuracy of it. Because right now it just does not feel like it's accurate enough, as evident by the statistical findings. So shotguns aren't accurate enough. That's kind of the takeaway. They need, in my opinion, they need a buff. Because they should be hitting way more often than they do, and they're not. In the case of a chest, it's hitting plenty. It's supposed to be, somewhere around 40%, and I'm getting 37, 38, 39% on the chest. Stomach, same kind of thing. Everything on those seems like it fits. But the head, it's not fitting. And I think BSG might need to have to go back to the drawing board on this one and see if an overall reduction in the amount of damage, but an increase in the amount of accuracy would end up feeling like it makes more sense here. Because it's not accurate enough. There's way too many misses and accidental limb hits and other stuff at close range to justify the way that it's set up currently. Anyway, thank you very much for your time, guys. I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you for all the love on the videos. Please consider hitting the like button. And bye.